So in today's video, we got to talk about the federal judge out of Rhode Island that has ruled that the Trump administration must pay out SNAP benefits in full as the government shutdown drags on. But what if I told you guys that the biggest threat to the president's agenda isn't coming from Democrats, it's coming from within his own party? Because while the Democrats, they made it clear they're done playing by the old rules, the GOP hasn't figured it out yet. These aren't the Democrats of yesterday. They're fueled by the radical left and their hatred for Trump, and they're willing to delay, obstruct, even use the American people as leverage in order to get what they want. Because their goal is to convince the American people, since it happened on Trump's watch, it's Trump's fault. And so if the GOP doesn't wake up, they will waste the time the president has to get the job done. And he said it himself. And so we're breaking it all down, showing you how each side is presenting their case and what it means for the people caught in the middle.
Thank you, Mr. President. A federal judge said tonight that the administration has to fully fund SNAP. It's the latest in the back and forth, and the Justice Department said they're going to appeal it. What's your message to folks as they work this out in the courts and in Congress as we're heading into Thanksgiving?
You want to go with it?
Yeah, look, Jackie, it's an absurd ruling because you have a federal judge effectively telling us what we have to do in the midst of a Democrat government shutdown, which what we'd like to do is for the Democrats to open up the government. Of course, then we can fund SNAP, and we can also do a lot of other good things for the American people. But in the midst of a shutdown, we can't have a federal court telling the president how he has to triage the situation. We're trying to keep as much turned on. We're trying to keep as much going as possible. The president and the entire administration are working on that, but we're not going to do it under the orders of a federal judge. We're going to do it according to what we think we have to do to comply with the law, of course, but also to actually make the government work for people in the midst of the Democrat government shutdown. If they would like to end this, we would welcome working with them to end this government shutdown, and then we wouldn't have to triage what we're going to fund and what we're not going to fund. And the last thing that I'll say is the American people are unfortunately about to start suffering some very real consequences because of the shutdown. In the past, when you had a government shutdown, you would have under the Obama administration, they would lean into all of the problems it was going to cause for the American people at the beginning of the shutdown. The president has told us to keep as much going as humanly possible, but after 30 days of this thing, 40 days of this thing, you're going to start seeing very real travel delays. That's because the Democrat government shut down. You're going to start seeing SNAP benefits run out. That's because the Democrat government shut down. They should stop this charade and open up the government. That's what we want them to do. We've been asking them to do it for 40 days. It's time.
And you know, one other thing, our country has to remain very liquid because problems, catastrophes, wars, could be anything. We have to remain liquid. We can't give everything away based on a number. Here's an example. When I was president, the number that you're talking about was a tiny fraction of what it is now. Biden went totally crazy, gave it to anybody that would ask, gave it to people that were able-bodied, had no problem. Anybody that would ask, we get the number. And it's many times the number of people are on. This wasn't meant for that. It was meant for people that had real problems, in many cases people that were down and out, people that could be saved. It wasn't meant for people that could do whatever they want, the people that say, well, I don't think I'll work, I'll just, collect this money. Take a look at the number of what it was during my administration and what it was during the Biden administration. It went up many, many times my first term.
And so now what we got going on is this liberal judge who was appointed by Obama is now demanding the Trump administration pay out the SNAP benefits in full. Basically what he's saying is I don't care how you do it, find the money from somewhere, move things around, take funds from somewhere else, but pay it in full. And all of this is happening because the Democrats are continuing to keep the government shut down. They're holding the country hostage, attempting to extort the president and the GOP, all to pander to the far left and motivate their voters and convince anyone who will believe them that it's all Trump's fault. And at this point, my personal opinion, Republicans need to listen to the president and terminate the filibuster, because look at what is happening as they hide behind the excuse that this is about Americans and health care. But let's be clear, Democrats created Obamacare. Let's also be clear, Democrats created the subsidies. And just in case you may have not been fully clear on this part, they also set the expiration date on those subsidies. And now they're getting upset because their own policies are expiring. And so every time you hear Hakeem Jeffries or any Democrat go on TV and talk about these subsidies, they're admitting two things. One, their incompetence of leadership. That's clear. But two, that Obamacare is unaffordable. They're admitting the only way to keep it alive is by continuing the gravy train of taxpayer money. And so for them to then point the finger at the Trump administration over subsidies that they knew would expire is absolutely wild. What we're seeing now is the fallout of their own failed design, and it's only getting worse. And here's the thing, and this is why at this point I say, Republicans, what are you doing? Because they're okay with that. They see the chaos as leverage. The more pain people feel, the more Democrats can spin it and say it's Trump's fault.
A historic government shutdown is now prompting a big shift in air travel from the federal level.
But our number one priority is to make sure when you travel safely.
The FAA announcing they're cutting down flights by 10% across the country's 40 busiest airports. They say it's to relieve pressure from air traffic control workers calling out in droves, hurting dozens of hubs across the U.S.
Virtually all of them cannot navigate financially missing 2 paychecks.
SeaTac says their operations will not be disrupted, but the FAA will work with airlines to handle logistics. However, with about 1,070 flights per day in recent weeks, that means around 100 flights will likely be cut out of the picture.
We actually looked up backup flights through United in the event that we had to fly into a different airport.
This couple, headed to their son's graduation in New Jersey, are hoping they're not one of them.
Well, we're really nervous just because Newark has had a lot of the airline delays, a lot of canceled flights.
They say they feel for all of those workers, but with holiday travel approaching in just a few weeks, they say that picture is now looking a bit murkier.
I think probably a lot of people are not going to be traveling or rethinking travel arrangements, not knowing how long this is going to drag on.
And right now I got to be critical of the Republicans because it's blatantly obvious that everything is going according to plan for Democrats. They've been able to make this shutdown stretch out for over a month now, to the point where now you have people who they're receiving their mail, getting their premiums that are going up. And of course, they're going to look at it and they're going to blame the president. They hear a media that's spinning it unobjectively in Democrats' favor. They may hear a representative, Hakeem Jeffries, someone get on TV and say, well, Republicans have the House, Republicans have the Senate, and Republicans have the presidency. It's the Republicans' fault. And they're going to put 2 and 2 together the best way they know how, and they're going to say, yeah, it is the Republicans' fault. They're going to go off the emotions of what they're suffering and dealing with on a everyday basis as just someone who's living life, not in the political spin cycle of keeping up with all the detail. Just, I'm going through things right now. This is not what it was supposed to look like, even if they voted for Trump or didn't. This is not what this country is supposed to look like at this point in time. And if they voted for him, it may make them feel skeptical if they're unaware and uninformed as a voter. And if they didn't vote for him, it's going to anger them and frustrate them more and motivate them to get out there even more down the line. At least that is what Democrats are banking on. And so at this point, Republicans need to wake up and realize that Democrats are telling you exactly who they are. And so they could choose not to believe them. And if they do, I think that they will suffer the consequences. And the president had a lot to say about this also, and what the Republicans need to do, because the reality is if the Democrats regain power, they're going to terminate the filibuster anyway. At least that's what the president believes. And so let's take a listen.
If I thought that they weren't going to pass the filibuster, I wouldn't even bring it up. They're going to pass it within the first hour. If they take power, and it's more likely that they take power if we don't do it, because we're not going to be passing any legislation, not going to approve anything. We're going to go 3¼ years. There won't be one bill that we're going to pass. Because the easiest thing to pass is exactly right now what they won't pass. We can't let that happen. It's time for Republicans to do what they have to do, and that's terminate the filibuster. It's the only way you can do it. And if you don't terminate the filibuster, you'll be in bad shape. We won't pass any legislation. And we should do our own bills. We should get out. We should do our own bills. We should open up. We should start tonight with the country's open. Congratulations. Then we should pass voter ID We should pass no mail-in voting. We should pass all the things that we want to pass, make our elections secure and safe, because California is a disaster. Many of the states are disasters. But can you imagine when they vote almost unanimously against voter ID? All we want is voter ID. You go to a grocery store, you have to give ID. You go to a gas station, you give ID. But for voting, they want no voter ID. That's only for one reason, because they cheat. We would pass that in 15 minutes. They have legislation in California where it's illegal to ask somebody for voter ID. If you ask somebody for voter ID, if you're an official, and you say, I'd like to see your voter ID, they can arrest you.
So today's voting day here in California. There was not a wait time or whatever to vote. However, I think it's baffling that as soon as I got there, I was trying to get my wallet out to provide my ID. Because, obviously, like, you go buy alcoholic drinks, they want to verify it's you, they want to verify your age. You would think it's the same thing for voting, right? As soon as the lady saw me trying to take my wallet out, oh, you don't need your ID, you just need to go up there. Same thing happened when I got to the person who was going to check me in. I had my ID out, ready to provide it. Oh, yeah, we don't need your ID. We just need your name and your address. Like, make that make sense. Like, how do you guys not see that there's something wrong with that?
Democrat leadership isn't interested in seeing the country prosper right now, because that would mean Donald Trump gets credit. And if they're willing to allow this much chaos to ensue just to make him look bad and to stop him, what makes any conservative think that the next 3 years will look any different? Reality is, Congress drags their feet too much when it comes to getting things done anyway. That's on both sides. It's been the president coming in, signing the executive orders, pushing major initiatives behind the reason why things have been getting done so far. But he can't do it all alone. He needs Congress to pass legislation to come in and do the job that a majority of the country elected the president to do. And if they deliver the way the president believes they can deliver, then that right there alone will set the foundation for whoever comes next in the Republican Party. But if they stall, if they let Democrats control the narrative and slow progress, then yes, Republicans will more than likely lose the midterm, and they'll also lose in 2028. And so because the radical left of the Democrat Party is in control, even the sensible Democrats are going along with it.
But one of the things I'm wondering, Senator, is are we farther away from trying to get this settled today on Friday than we were on Monday?
Dana, the Democrats just have to take yes for an answer. We've given them everything essentially that they were asking for, the reasonable Democrats, not the crazy ones like what you just heard. But they literally yesterday at their Democratic caucus meeting in the Senate had a pep rally. I mean, they are celebrating this. It's insane. And what's happening is the far left, which is the tail wagging the dog, is bullying the reasonable Democrats out of coming to the table. We have a proposal that they have been reviewing and looking at now for several days, mostly with things that they asked for, including a normal appropriations process. We open up the government, they get a vote on their Obamacare fix. They want to sit down, meet with the president on a path forward. He's more than willing to do that. All those things are in play, but they can't take yes for an answer for fear. I mean, these people are scared spitless of their base, and that's what's happening. Yesterday was a bullying session. The far left in the Democrat caucus bullied the reasonable ones out of coming to the table and settling this. I'm still hoping that these people are going to come to the table, and we'll find out soon enough.
How do you plan to do that? I think that's what's interesting is that Democrats following the elections on Tuesday, as Chris Murphy is just explaining there, again, they feel emboldened. They want to dig in their heels. Do you need President Trump to weigh in more here, and how would you like him to do that?
Well, President Trump is more than willing to weigh in and to talk to the Democrats about path forward on how to fix the unaffordability and unsustainability problems of Obamacare, a problem the Democrats created. The president's more than willing to help them fix that, but not while the government is being held hostage. All the president's saying is, open up the government, then let's sit down and talk on a path forward. That's been offered up. I mean, I don't know how you can be more reasonable. This is really a handful of Democrats who, it's all we need is 5 to come forward, but they, again, are being bullied by their leadership, by the far left in this country. And as a consequence of that, you've got troops, men and women in uniform, are going without pay. You've got women and children who are going to be going without WIC and food stamps. You've got people who are working in airlines and airports, as you heard Secretary Duffy say earlier, and flight delays and everything that goes with that. The pain is multiplying for the American people, and the Democrats yesterday at their caucus meeting, Dana, were celebrating it. It was a big pep rally, and I just don't know how you defend that to the American people who are the ones that are suffering.
Can't be reasonable with people who don't understand reason, and that's who the far left is. And at this point, Republicans need to understand something. If the so-called reasonable Democrats can be bullied, or they're too afraid to stand up to the far left within their own party, the same radical left that feels like they have all the momentum and just help elect the socialist mayor in New York City, Zohran Mamdani, then they're not dependable partners. Republicans have to see reality for what it really is. Terminating the filibuster is risky, yes. But if they do it and then get to work and pass legislation, voter ID just to start, deliver results, and then let Democrats continue to implode under the weight of their own extremes, then by the time the midterms and 2028 roll around, the choice will be obvious for most Americans, just as it was in 2024. But those are my thoughts. What about you? Drop your comments down below. As always, the best way you can show your support and that you enjoy the content is by smashing that like button. That tells me you like the video. And subscribe for more breakdowns just like this. And as always, until next time,